go ahead with the exercise if at all you want to really follow this route and exploit the information set that you have. So let me share my screen, whether it is can you see the screen?
No.
No, it has not yet come. Did you share the screen share?
Yeah.
You went to present now and
So no, it is.
no, go to present now.
Okay. 1 second.
It is a little bit different from the Zoom. So
Okay. Present now. Okay.
and then share entire screen.
Your entire screen.
Yes.
So this is the screen which is coming now. Share.
That will come. Yes. So
No, it is says the share is not active.
In fact, I faced exactly the same problem. Amarendra,
okay. Okay. Let me then check.
I think you have not allowed. Just check.
because that option did not work last time. I also had that similar issue.
Okay. Let me check then. Let me check.
Yeah, check it out.
There is some, I think maybe some extra something you have to open. It did not work in my case exactly for this reason.
Maybe there is some host control problem. Let me check.
Can you see it now?
No.
Yes.
Now it is coming.
Yes. I got it. The clue.
So then I have not moderated anything. I think.
Yes. No, I got the clue. It is actually a different app. Now you can see. So that's
Yes.
fine. That's fine.
Make it full screen, sir.
I will do it. So, friends, this is the topic that I want to engage you people: data sources, methods, and analysis. So let us first get ourselves warmed up with this very idea that why am I doing it and what is its purpose.
Sir, if you can make full screen.
It's full screen, no?
Oh, then
It is not coming full screen?
no.
Okay, let me see.
No, you have not made it full screen, sir. I think you go to yes. Click on that.
It is full screen now? Can you read it, Amarendra, at least?
No, I can read. Yes. Then go ahead. Actually, I think it's not full screen, but then it is clearly visible to us.
Okay, fine. I mean, let's not,
Yes.
और एक मसाला जानना पड़े. Something has to be done.
Yes.
So basically, you see, I wanted to begin with this, that whenever we come across information comes in very varied shapes. You get a table, you get a temporal data. Nowadays, I must tell you that many of this information are available on the web. And two things happens. Either it is available in form of reports, you have data sets, you have Excel sheets, you have PDFs. So I will give you some clues as to don't get panicky about that. You cannot get this information onto a platform where you can really work on that information. That I will give you some clue. So basically the objective is making sense of information and with description on one hand and inferring some kind of curiosity that comes to you. So varying sets of information are there, not necessarily health, which I will be illustrating because of the fact that it is very easily accessible to me. But don't limit yourself and don't even hesitate to question me if you have information of other domains. You can always use the clues that I give in other domain-based information as well, like education, infrastructure, economy, anything. Our objective basically is to read information with a scientific temper. That is our objective. How do we read information and translate it to a meaningful way that we describe it? So description of information, actually, I consider is a value addition, because when you read information, describe information, then you are describing with certain intent, and that describing intent has to be made clear, and that is perhaps what exactly you engage with. So I demonstrate for you people some information utilizing health information available in public domain. Now, what I have the information, let me give a little bit of background of it. The 5th round of National Family Health Survey, whose data sets are all available. Key indicators on maternal child health nutrition are available at national state level, and estimates of selected indicators are given at district level also. So NFHS provides information on all key MCH indicators. I will show to you the link where you can explore and find out that, yes, it is possible. So I have considered, just for the sake of illustration, these 4 indicators that you see in the screen. 4 antenatal care visits, minimum.
Sir, I think the slide is not moving. So,
It's not moving.
no, sir.
It's not moving. Just 1 second. It is moving now. Amarendra?
No, no, sir.
No. Okay. Just 1 second. I'll solve this.
Sometimes the browser sometimes creates problem.
Let me do this. Amarendra, is it visible?
It is coming, sir. Yes, sir. It is visible.
Does it move?
Yeah, it moves. It moves.
It moves now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So the indicators that I have considered is basically these 4 indicators that you see on the screen for yourself. There is a postnatal check PNC, there is an antenatal care information, there is a information on institutional delivery as it has been, defined as percentage of live births in last 5 years occurred in institutions, and then full immunization of children. I'm not going to read it out. Consider it as 4 indicators. Okay. These indicators are available on a fact sheet. Now, did the slide move? Amarendra, is okay?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. So basically, I'm giving you some details as to the 4 indicators that I chose and which file gets used for it. So just for your purpose, there is a link here which I have given, which I will explore. Okay. Can you see the screen now?
Not the new one. The same old one is there.
Old one is there. Okay.
You will have to choose that browser on your computer.
Now can you see?
No.
No, it's okay. Okay, don't worry. Can you see now? That's all.
Now I think it is opening. Yes.
Yes.
हाँ यस सर,
Yes,
थोड़ा सा बड़ा करना चाहिए बट
बड़ा कर देंगे, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है।
हाँ हाँ हाँ,
हाँ, उसको बड़ा कर देंगे, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। अभी दिख रहा है?
दिख रहा दिख रहा दिख रहा
Yes, yes.
दिख रहा
So, for your information, look at it. This is a fact sheet for Odisha key indicators, which you see these indicators. These indicators are state-wise, okay? It's for the state. And exactly, I pick up indicators from this list, which are the 4 which I have actually listed out for you. That this will be one source where actually you can get. Beyond that, look at, there are many other indicators for you. There is IMR, CMR, your marriage and fertility related, current use of family planning. You have this, and on this I've just taken one page for you. If you go down, you see antenatal checkup information is there. Okay, is it moving? You can see, no? Amarendra?
yes yes, it is moving, yes.
It is moving. So
Yeah.
these are certain set of indicators. If you look at it, totally about 110, more than 110. It is about 131 indicators like this is available to you. So for your sake, I have given a link on my PowerPoint, which you saw just now. And in that PowerPoint, you have a kind of sorry, one second. I have to play around like this, so you have to bear with me. So this is, if just one second. Oh. Yeah. So this is, now it is visible, I guess. It's okay.
Now it's opening,
Yeah. So the thing is, this is something which I have given you on your screen for the same set of indicator that I displayed to you for Odisha. You can read for Balangir, for Cuttack, for Jharsuguda, you will have separate sheets. So I have given link. I'm not going back. You explore that from the site, from the slide itself, and you can get this information. Is that right? So let us now move to this 4 indicators. Some indicators it is available, and here I must tell, if the students are having notebooks, so I couldn't write that. These are all in PDF. Okay, in PDF format. If anything is there, what you do, you go save that file, and you actually go something called I love PDF. There is a, you put I love PDF, and then in that you ask that I want to convert a PDF to an Excel file. Okay, so choose that PDF file, and I love PDF will allow you to do it in Excel. So this file will be saved as an Excel file. Is that fine? Clear to you? All the students can do it, and there's no problem in, no issues will emerge. It will come directly like Excel. The table will, because in PDF you cannot work with that table. Is that right? So this is the link that you have available. Let us move forward. Okay. Is the slide moved now? Am I right?
Yes, now it's on indicators.
Indicators, correct. So now if you look at those 4 indicators that I talked about have been listed here, and it is exactly a table which you are seeing on your screen. It will appear for operational purposes in a Excel sheet. Okay, in an Excel sheet, district name indicators will be available. Let us consider this as our input. We have 4 indicators: antenatal care, postnatal care, institutional birth, full vaccination. Okay, so these 4 indicators, if we work on, if you can look at, what are you observing actually? You find that there is some kind of a total. Total is basically for the state as a whole. Okay, you have 30 districts, and all these indicators display to you some variation. Am I right? Now, these variations that you see, that is your problem in perspective that you want to work on. How do you convert or make a story when you have indicators like this available to you? Let us go ahead. I say that actually what anxiety do you have when you look at a data like that? The immediate anxiety that comes to your mind is that read the disparities. Am I right? There is a difference, there is a disparity, you want to read that. and then you compare the best and the worst. These are two immediate anxiety that comes to you. But then how do you do that? You cannot say that disparities are no, the high, low, or this kind of writing will not help, because you have to make something which will also be considered by others as to, okay, he is giving an interpretation. He is using these numbers to make a story. And that is exactly what you engage when you start working on indicators and data. For instance, say, how do we solve this issue? We have to solve this issue by saying comprehend the distance between the best and the worst. That was the first curiosity that came to your head. How will you comprehend that distance? That distance can be comprehended two ways. It will be comprehended in relation to the state aggregate. It can be comprehended in relation to the best performing district also. So imagine there are two. We are going step by step. We are interested in knowing the disparity. Now I am coming to what is the distance. There has to be a measure which will give a distance. And the second part of it is that these informations are also available to you in those facts sheet, that link which I explored. Characterization of these indicators, basic characterization. Any indicator which is given by rural, urban, given by wealth quintile, given by caste, you have a lot of prominent characteristics by which these are displayed. For that, how will you do that? Actually, these disparities across characteristics, they are different, because the differences that you get across economic class, which I have written wealth quintile, across residence group, across caste, you find it differently. How do you actually comprehend it with a measure? You have to comprehend something to show. So aggregate characteristics distance, I say. One is distance against the best and worst, distance against the state average. Now we are talking about characteristics distance. And third and very important thing that also bothers you is that in these indicators, you can more or less see group. I'm not telling health, even in any other, you can have two dimensions to an indicator. One is that indicators by themselves they represent basically input, process, and outcome, largely. So what is called an input indicator? Input indicator, suppose you have indicators like money spent. Input indicator is, for instance, the infrastructure available. Those are input indicators. What is the process indicator? Process indicators are basically how is it distributed? I mean, how are you having the indicators of process, that the policy, the state has this, state has given this, state allocates this much for this reason. So you have several indicators, you have to group them. Here I am talking about utilization to outcome. There are also indicators in this set. You will find, did you use these services? Did you use public-private services? Did you use this? So all those are utilization indicators. So does this utilization have a bearing with the outcome? Because indicators need not necessarily be always outcomes. So you have whole host of indicators. The only intelligent work you have to do is you have to categorize them in terms of utilization and outcome. And then your curiosity to relate utilization to outcome will be resolved. And the method approach for that is a pure scatter plot. Okay. Now let us move. When you do this comprehension, as I raised you with state aggregate, how will you do it? Calculate the state aggregate you have available in the data at the bottom, as I demonstrated to you, 78.43 for that ANC indicator. If state aggregate is given, what you do? Sort each district in descending order based on this indicator. Sorting. How do you sort it? Can you see in your screen? You go to an Excel. Excel you open, home, Excel page. Once you open, click on sort and filter. There will be on the top menu, sort and filter under the home tab itself, sort and filter. I have done it and shown it to you. You can see on your screen, sort and filter. You go to sort and filter, then in that, the menu which will come down with that sort and filter when you click will be the sort largest to smallest. Click on that.
Sir, are you opening the Excel sheet?
Now, I'm not opening the Excel sheet, but I'm actually giving first, Amarendra, the path which is visible on the
That
slide.
is fine.
Am I right?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, yes.
Yeah, fine.
Because if I open, that problem will happen again. This will go, that will go, they will
Right.
miss something. Let them have this in
Yes, sir.
hand first. Okay. So
Okay.
you have on an Excel sheet, you have imported your data. You go to the home page, you choose sort and filter, you do in that sort largest to smallest, and you see there will be then the screen which will come will be sort warning. Okay, that means what do you want to do? There are two things: continue with the current selection or expand the selection. You say expand the selection, then the sort that will get activated. If you sort it, then you will get the result in that column. It will automatically shift from the largest to the smallest, that is highest to the lowest. Once these values you get in sorting, what you do? You divide each of these value by your state average. Your state average is already there, total is there. Total is state, or state it will be written, Odisha, this much. Then the district, this PDF which I displayed to you. So you find that available state aggregate. Now, once you have state aggregate, you divide it. Simply you divide it. In that in Excel, you know, one column, if you take a fresh column and say this divided by a constant value, you can divide it and calculate the index for each district against the state average. What will happen? Some of these values will become greater than 1, some of these values will be less than 1. Why? Because state aggregate will be in the middle. Some district might be doing better than the state. Some districts might be doing poorer than the state. Now, once you have it, repeat that step for all the 30 districts. One, you divide, second, you divide, third, you divide, you do, then you get a full column. Then you do subtract each index from the index of the highest district. What? You subtract, that means the highest district will get a value which will be the highest value basically. Maybe 1 point something, maybe 2 point something, depends on how far that district is better than the state average. Then suppose, example, Puri district, subtract the value in cell C5 from in cell C4. That means you want on the basis of this measure, what will happen? This index value will tell, not I'm saying this is the Pokka method. There is nothing like this. This is a method by which what we did, we have several indicators. In each indicator, we have now made them free from their magnitude. We are reading them in terms of an index, and we are able to see what is the distance. This step 5, if you keep on reading or try to do this, you find out that how is district A, I'm not naming any district, distantly placed from district B in terms of a given indicator when we are presenting it from the or reading it against the state average. Say, for instance, look at this. I did this, which I told you. Balangir, Puri, Jharsuguda. Can you see this screen, my dear students? It's okay?
Yes.
So you have the ANC indicator. You have 78.43 is here. At the end, you see that is state aggregate. This index value, can you look at it? What does it look like? Your best index value is in Bolangir, 1.21. Okay. And the worst index value is in Mayurbhanj. Okay. Now, these distances which you have, you see how much is the distance from the best is the 0.006, 0.017, 0.051, 0.066. Can you see the last column? The last column is actually showing you what is the distance. This is as simple as this. This is as simple as this. I am manufacturing for you a kind of a distance which was conceived from the state aggregate, and these distances which we have shows us that if you look at the best, the smallest distance from the best district is 0.006. You have a distance at the bottom, Mayurbhanj is 0.538.
Mr. Sir, can I ask something
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt?
Yeah, please go ahead.
No, I was just wondering. So this index is the aggregative index that you are talking about?
No, you divided. You see upper, I saw this one, this step which I told you.
Yes.
Step, you look at it. One, yes.
So in that sense, what would have happened? Suppose I would have taken the absolute values and calculated the difference. Is there any advantage of index?
No.
Taking indexes?
You see, if you take absolute values and take differences, the sorted value will tell you that Bolangir is the best. Am I right? We have 95.41.
Yes.
The reason this index is done is not only so for one variable. Suppose you are doing for 4.
Okay.
Then comparative, those other indicator may not be the percentage, that can be something else.
Okay.
So you do this basically to get rid of the nominal computation or indicator aspect of this. Okay. So nominally you remove. Now you see them in index form and you see them their distance. And again, this you are not this when you do a state average, this is the distance. Am I right? But if you do it against the best district, you can do the same exercise against the best district.
Best district, yes.
So best district will assume a value 1 and others will assume values lower than that. That also will produce a distance. This also will produce a distance.
Yeah.
So these distances when you have, look at here. Now repeat the same step for other indicators now. That's why I was coming to what you raised.
Okay.
Suppose we have institutional birth. We have PNC. We have full vaccination. Am I right? Now, if you look at these indexes, these distances are different for different districts. So, in terms of these distances, you will put them combination of those distances, average those distances, and talk about in these 4 indicators. I mean, if you take really a group of indicators which represent a certain dimension, for instance, it is maternal health, it is child health, it is, household well-being, you take anything, you will be able to combine them and situate these places in terms of their disparity. As I started, our first curiosity was to examine disparity and distances. Is that right? Any questions? Yes. Anything you can ask, no problem. Any confusion in this stage? Yes? Okay.
Sir, I have a question.
Yeah, please go
now,
ahead.
Instead of looking at different categories, if I now take a composite figure, how will we do it, sir?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. You are a little ahead of me. You are perfectly fine. I'm coming to that. I'm going to do that only. The purpose is what exactly you asked. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So if you see, finding the aggregate index again now for each district will be these indexes you simply average. You can make weighted average. You can give different weight to indicators. Your own choice. Okay. So I have written for you a simple one, which is D4, I9, N11. Why I have written this? Because when you do in Excel sheet, these values will assume D4, I9, N11, and S13. You add for Bolangir and then get an average. These average will give you the overall index on that group. Whatever, 4 indicators on a particular theme you take, 8 indicators in a particular theme you take, you get an average. Repeat this job for all the districts. Then sort the districts from largest to smallest based on the average index. Okay. Then you sort, because sorting I have told you how to do in Excel. Then subtract each index from the index of the highest district to know the mutual distance which is there between one district versus the other. This is particularly done, this particular exercise which I am telling you is a very simple one. It is actually having no complication, but I will show to you that when aggregate differences in bar graph we saw district wise, if you draw the graphs, they really confuse. But here you have a value which has also a range, and that range we will be actually depicting in a graph form. I will tell you for that how to go about doing that. You have this in your Excel sheet. You have already got the average for the districts. Select steps to plot a line graph. What you do, go to your Excel home. There is a menu, insert. In insert, if you click, Then there will be something which you say, insert what? Bar charts, okay? So you choose, it will give you different forms. You click on one, that is the chart it will choose. Then under insert tab, go to insert column bar chart, then chart design you select. And after you design, select what you are doing, you are only selecting the columns. And that will give you a kind of a graph for all the districts. And how beautiful it will look if you go will be this. So you have district name, you have aggregate differences. Now what you found that the distances of these districts, how are they situated? That means one simple message from this very simple exercise that I illustrated, you are able to see that there is the districts. On the overall, we are getting Balangir. Now you look at in this graph, when you take it aggregate, which becomes the best and what is the difference? Difference is smallest, difference is the biggest in Kentucha. So what happens by doing this exercise, you are making a value addition, you are getting a fresh understanding, you are able to propose and show that there is a magnitude of difference across the districts, and those magnitude of difference is depicted by the graph. I taught you that what exactly, this is nothing big. If you follow my slide and go and click, you will get this graph. You have to do nothing. You have to have the Excel sheet. That's it. Nothing more than that. So look at what we are doing. A simple exercise depicts a scenario, a description, which is very relevant. So my dear students, tell me, this is not one indicator that I'm illustrating. You can have umpteen set of information base available to you in different domain, health, education, infrastructure, economy, any variable that you have. The curiosity always is there to see regional disparity. Curiosity is always there about the mutual distances between the levels of development. Am I right? Now, if you do it, that thing which you depict will be appreciated by people, that you are doing a regional dimension exercise, which is interesting, which adds value to information and freshly informs something which is otherwise not exhaustively done. Okay. Now let us say comprehend the best district, sort the district descending order of ANC coverage. Now what you do, you go to home, sort largest to smallest, then expand it and sort it. Once the values are sorted, divide each value by the best district. So one approach that I just now finished was done against the state average. Repeat the same exercise by taking the best district. Now best district in each indicator could be different. One district cannot be best in everything. So against that, when you compute, I have given again on the screen for you, go to home, select sort largest to smallest, and then expand selection, then sorted. Every indicator needs to be sorted. After sorting, you are actually doing the same job which you did the divide by the state average, you divide by the best district. When you repeat this exercise with the best district, then you do the same thing, as then subtract each index from the index of the highest district, get the mutual distance. So these mutual distance which I am focusing on, what do I mean by that? Mutual distance in one indicator, mutual distance in aggregate of them. That is basically to situate, to know there are information from this analysis. If you do this analysis as suppose 2 points in time, this data is not only for n which is 5, it is available for n which is 4 as well. So when you have 2 points in time, has mutual distances narrowed down? If it has narrowed down, what conclusion do we say? There is convergence. There is convergence happening. And convergence is a virtue which everybody wants to talk about. Is the convergence in certain domain better compared to other domain? We can get to know through this exercise. Therefore, when you have indicators, it is your wisdom to actually group them, your wisdom to analyze them in this kind of simplest approaches. But don't take it that, I can complicate it, but, I want to begin to win all of you to get into this job. Then you should raise questions saying that, no, sir, this is not sensitive. No, sir, that We have approaches. If one fine day I bring everything to the table, then it will be indigestion. Okay, so you do this and do this exercise again. If you repeat, what you get when we do the same index we did against the state average. Now we have done it at the best. Look at it. The best for ANC was Bolangir. It gets a value 1, and the lowest value that you get is 0.44. Okay, so this index value you have, these are differences between the best district, the next district, the next district, how different they are. Suppose you are actually trying to say a district like Gajapati, district like Malkangiri, how far in distance they are, then the last column here on your screen is telling you how far they are distance when you consider the best district. And already I displayed the exercise for you for the state as a whole. So obviously, what you have is literally the picturization or analysis based on two aspects. So now I have done, repeat the same steps for all the remaining indicators as you did for in the earlier case by against the state best average, state average. You are now doing it the best. Here I can display to you that what is happening because I have sorted. You find in one indicator it is Jharsuguda, another indicator it is Bargarh, in another indicator it is Devgarh. Okay. Now, if you have this kind of differences in situation of district in performance in a given group of indicators, you display like this, and then you repeat the exercise that I told, finding the aggregate index for each district, combining all the indicators as like earlier steps was written. It is just a repetition. You compute it for each district, then take them and aggregate them. Once you aggregate, again you come to know the distance and disparity in a particular group of indicators. So these group of indicators are able to display to you as we did in earlier time. We follow the same because you put the Excel sheet has your data. You have to go to the menu and click insert, choose insert column or bar chart, choose the design. Once you choose the design, you click and you have already blocked the columns that you wanted to be charted or graphed for you, and the graph will be displayed like this. Now in combination, what we got, we were actually getting when we chose Bolangir was actually, it was different when we did it state average. Now we have the average index values and their gaps displayed, though you can see that this pattern and the other pattern was no different pattern wise, but the degree of disparity, the average of differences between the districts will be completely different. So what is the message? We are getting two stories here. One, that we are able to read indicators against a state average. We are able to read indicators and their distance mutually across districts by considering two ideals. One is state average, other is the best district. So is that fine? So let us move. This was our one curiosity which we resolved. So comparison of indicator best. Now we come to characterization of indicator. That was our second curiosity. And here also I actually demonstrate to you a very innovative approach of looking at whenever an indicator is given in aggregate and its characterization is given, I propose something called, don't read this as differences and differential across caste group, across religion, across rural, urban, across whatever characteristics you have. Once you have that information, I propose here for all of you to compute something called a characteristics odd. Because an indicator is aggregate is given. So I have just displaying rural, urban, caste and wealth quintile. So calculate the individual odd of each group. That is, an indicator is given against the characteristics. In the sense, suppose let's take the example of rural and urban. Rural it is given, urban it is given, total it is given. So what is I am writing? P1 is the probability of being in the urban. P2 for being in the rural. P is the aggregate. So what you do? Every characteristics group, the P is nothing but your indicator prevalence. It is a percentage, no? Suppose 85%, P is 0.85. As simple as that. Okay. Now, if you compute an odd for that P in the characteristics group and in the total. Total is for P. So then you should read it, divide the individual odd of each group by the aggregate odd P by 1 minus P. This will give you another approach of distance. Look at it. What you get? You get a kind of a gap. You can have this difference for one district against an aggregate, a characteristics difference which are different from another district, because characteristics display a different kind of departures. And we know very well that distances are to be also understood across characteristics. We want characteristics disadvantage should go low, characteristics disadvantage should be addressed. This is actually defining, suppose a research question, what is the economic divide in an indicator across districts of Odisha? This is a question. And we need to answer that question by just multiplying, by just computing what I have written on the top, characteristic odds. C5 gives the percentage of women in 4ANC, C6 in your Excel sheet, it gives these indicators. And you have these indicators in aggregate available and across characteristics also available. So across characteristics, when something is available, that is I for you will not confuse, because your indicators are, suppose you want to say values are in percentages, then you have to convert them to P. Only job you have to do is it is nothing but unitary conversion. Your percentages, you write it in P. So when you write in P form, then you get the odds as it is displayed on the top, and then compute characteristics odds, and characteristics odds will always remain one value going above one, other value going below one. So you have here also a kind of a characteristics distance. Just now I displayed to you regional distance. Now we are talking about characteristics distance. How much distance in an indicator happens because of residence? How much distance happens in an indicator because of caste? How much distance does happen because of economic status? Wonderful story you can write. You can write wonderful story describing that these distances which are there, which are displayed, are against these vital characteristics features, and the outcomes are like this. Are you with me? Does it sound interesting?
Yes, sir.
Sir,
Okay.
I have a question.
Yeah, please.
Yes, sir. Can you use multivariate regression analysis like PCA and discriminant analysis for the same thing?
Oh, you are going much ahead of me. I will come to all that and teach all that also.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
My dear students, what is happening, when we do not do these exercises and we only aim for a multivariate analysis, a PCA or a discriminant analysis, we just get a page of output. That's it. You have to write. These are like, writing simple steps and enriching our understanding in a very sequential manner.
Yes, sir. Yes.
So you are understanding, I'm very happy. If you are not understanding, you can ask me, sir, it doesn't become clear to me. What do I do with it? This is called characteristics odd approach. I don't think if you Google, you will find this in many papers being done.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So that is the reason that you have to innovate in a very small way, but it should be in keeping with statistical principles. Is that okay? So we have characteristics odds. Just for displaying for you, I have here urban, rural, aggregate. I computed individual odds. Then what happens? That is individual odds, urban, rural, and aggregate. Now what happens? This is basically written in 4.58, 3.49, and 3.63. You may say, what is the aggregate odd I am computing? Aggregate odd becomes 1. Okay, against that, the ratios are given. Characteristics odds ratios are given. So what is happening? Urban has a 1.26, rural is 0.96. If you look at caste, across caste, what you get the highest value? 1.30. The lowest value is 0.65. Am I right? Now the gap here, the characteristics gap here is actually to be computed for the last column. Okay. Now this is where you go a step further in understanding characteristics odds and the gap in an outcome because of a particular characteristics. Now you do the same exercise for different indicators that you have. We have chosen 4. All the 4 indicators you can compute on your Excel sheet, where actually you are just computing the correct odds against the total and then getting the gap. Okay. Once you have got the gap, that gap is actually demonstrating to you that particular characteristics makes what kind of a difference to the outcome, and the characteristics may be more prone to, like you are somebody was mentioning, we have to do PCA discriminant. After all, we have to know the variance at univariate level, and we know from this analysis that a particular characteristics creates a bigger difference or not, or a particular, like look at even wealth quintile, it is making a very big difference, you can see, but it is also making a big difference in other indicators where it is not wealth, something else might be playing a role. Okay, so basically this display and this exercise gives you an understanding of characteristics divide, which is important to note, and it is called another steps of value addition to information base when we have across characteristics groups. Again, same information you generated. Now what will you do? You select the entire data approach which I have displayed to you. These are 4 or more widgets. You have an odd against rural urban. You have the rural urban odds. Look at it. I have put in the bottom of that PNC, institutional delivery, full immunization. What are the gaps? How do they look like? Institutional delivery is the one which is creating the biggest gap. Urban is 3.26 times more likely than rural, being 0.89 times less likely. Okay, I told you these values will be above 1 and less than 1. But when we take characteristics which are not dichotomous like urban rural, we have to take all and look at which is the least and which is the best. So you take this and then you go to insert column bar chart option, clustered column, select the clustered column option, then chart design, you choose which you want to, and then just click. This value which you have blocked will come as a chart in your screen. Look at it. This is what you will get for all of them. A chart has been displayed for all the indicators. How are the odds coming? Does it not look interesting? This is the way you actually display information and discuss and infer on things like this. So when you do this kind of an exercise and you are able to do it at district level, imagine you are able to explore a whole range of information. Given our objective, that what I am interested in is that any set of information that is available at a disaggregated level and along with characteristics, it is our responsibility that we must treat it, we must use it, we must explore it in a given direction in simple steps where we go ahead one by one, one by one, one by one. And for all this, what you would require? You have to require in your report to justify why are you reading across these characteristics. That is where literature comes into play. That is where one is objective. We want to know about this, but also literature says that actually these are pertinent characteristics which influences an outcome. So this is about any indicator, whether in the group of input process outcome, you take same kind of indicator, display differences, and then take it ahead with this kind of an approach. So this is how you can display on the right side as I have displayed to you. You can, and it is very easy from Excel when you get your chart, just right click copy, you can bring it to the text. So there is no issues in not being able to. I don't think there is a handicap for anybody now that if these information you are able to access once, you cannot do what I'm saying. You can always do what I'm saying. So the third curiosity that I shared with you is about utilization to outcome relation. And often this is also like one of you were so much interested in regression. I will not go to regression of PCA and discriminant. First, let us see whether there is a relationship. How do you see relationship between utilization and outcomes? The best tool is scatter plot. And Excel provides you this. in a two-dimensional plane. What you do, you put your indicators are in Excel. So you say you have input indicators, you have output indicators. So you group them in X and Y axis. You want to see one response to the other. Under that insert tab at the top of the screen, you say insert scatter or bubble chart. There is a option which will emerge. Click on scatter plot, then choose a chart design, and then try to ask the computer to display you. This is what you have: two columns of information. A and C is a input indicator. Birth weight is an output indicator. Now you go to insert scatter XY bubble chart, then use the chart, choose the chart design, how you want it to be shown to you, and then say click yes. Then the two block columns will be converted into a chart which you will see on your right side, like this. So you had an ANC, but what are you seeing? Here, of course, the variations, you are still seeing a relationship, am I right? And this relationship comes with a regression equation. The regression equation down written tells what is the intercept, what is the slope, and this is the way a particular input indicator is giving rise to an output indicator. Output indicator is normal birth weight, and then other input indicator is ANC utilization. What you are getting now? ANC utilization increases, normal birth weights are more likely, the extent to which it influences, as indicated by the slope here, is 0.155. Is that right? So now these relationships, you can do it for others also. You can do it with nutrition. You have used up ANC, look at, that was positive, am I right? That was positive. This is negative. The scatter itself tells you that if ANC increases, wasting prevalence will come down. A pattern that is emerging is also very clear. That is IFA supplementation and wasting prevalence. ANC and wasting prevalence. Sorry, I made a mistake. That is an IFA supplementation variable. Okay. Now, let us go and do this in several other input and outcome variables. Doing this doesn't take much of an effort. It is only the Excel sheet. And I have given you the menu, go home, insert, do this, and say, please put a scatter plot. This scatter plot itself, if you are doing, and you are able to display it for worse regions, how is this scatter plot when it comes to whole of Odisha with this district-wise information? It is telling you that in Odisha, the relationship between this is like this way. The association comes in expected direction or not, what kind of bearing it has, you are able to see it on your screen. If I am making any reason for you, I would be happy that if students who are interested in writing project reports, they should be first made familiar with a whole range of information that is accessible. Depending on your interest, not necessarily this health, some are interested in macroeconomy, development, infrastructure, education, health, anything. You take indicator. I'm just because I'm illustrating for health, you should not think in that way. You can even come back now to me with questions as to which area indicator you are familiar with and how these approaches that I taught will be helpful for you to display. Okay. Now, this is the same exercise that you can do for simple linear regression. It is also in the menu. You go to data, you choose data analysis. The drop-down menu will show you what analysis, Fourier, histogram, moving average, random, I've given you. So you choose regression, then you okay it, give your X and Y range, and then in Excel, you can do a regression very easily. This is the option that you should use if you want to do a regression with your outcome and input and outcome relationship. Then it will itself give you a summary output like this. This is called the extent to which one variable explains your variation is 39%. And then you have, coefficient of standard error, everything, which if you know little bit of basic statistics is taught to you, you can know. But if you wish me to teach you a kind of a regression lecture, I can make it much simpler, starting from ANOVA and what exactly we get when an output like this emerges in Excel. Is that right? Now, one more dimension that I wanted is to know, convey to you, is dealing with information available in ICDS, because Amarendra Das wanted that you should go and collect information which are available at ICDS level. So what I could gather from some of the PDF sheets which he had sent me, the details that are available in this, if you go with a questionnaire and copy it also, what are the domains of information that you will be getting? You will get household details, which are size and composition. You will get beneficiary details with type of benefits received. You will get events like death details in the household. You will get details like nutrition of children, nutritional makeup. This four broad information that you have, how do you handle them? The analysis entailed based on the size and composition. People often feel that, okay, what is the meaning? Just household size and composition. I have written for you how many things can be done if you just give me size and composition. Presence and absence of dependent and vulnerable. Details are there, so you know how many dependent are there, which person is working. So you are able to get in that entire locality the aspect of dependency and vulnerability. The structure of dependency differs in households. Male, female, dominant household. That means number of members, male, female. At least that is written, so you know what happens. Household with and without education as children, you can find out. Single, multiple, couple household. A household has only one couple, or it has two couples, or it has three couples. Now, problem is, in these things, why are they necessary? They are necessary when we want to cater services. They are necessary because they convey different aspects of the household which are very important. And that is the reason that you should engage with this kind of data. After collecting, it is your own job as to how you explore it and take it forward. Analysis entailed based on beneficiary detail. There are beneficiary of services by household attributes. There are beneficiary type. What kind of benefits have they received? It is nutritional benefit. It is antenatal benefit. It is other which are subsidies and all received. Single and multiple benefits received. There are households, they are only receiving one kind of benefit. There are households with multiple benefits. So you see that whole set which actually Amarendra actually shared with me has variables. Don't consider it variables. You have to pick up only in a very small sheet. These are information which are there. I will collect. And once you collect them, again, you can enter it in an Excel sheet, as I taught you. And I must tell you, Excel is a very powerful package which can do many things that you don't imagine. Therefore, my dear students, I feel that it is important for you to not get frightened, not get overwhelmed by this saying, oh, this is a limitation, that is a limitation. Here onwards, after my lecture, I wish that you read a table of information and make yourself a promise that you are able to write a page on a table of information. And that page will come provided you think the way I presented to you, that what are the curiosities that comes to you when you look at a set of tables or set of information in front of you. And that will make us actually very happy, and I will be ready always to facilitate this, because that is what I enjoy and that is what will be the reward for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. I'm sure the students should have now got a feel of the data. See, sometimes what happened, like when Govind was asking the question, I was just thinking, like many researchers take the data and put it in the Excel or in nowadays packages, and some graphs come or some regression results come. But that doesn't give you feel of the data. So to get a feel of the data, you open the data and then see or do the basic analysis like Mr. Sir was suggesting, and then you do whatever you want to do, like regression or very sophisticated things you can. But without doing this, if somebody does the regression or advanced analysis, I think you don't get the feel. No, I repeatedly tell this. Okay, so thank you so much. I think I should open the floor for discussion. There will be a lot of questions. Participants.
Sure.
The floor is now for the participants. If anybody wants to ask any question, please unmute yourself and ask. if you want to say, if you're already working on some data and you
Yes.
want to make some meaningful interpretation of the data, please shoot your questions to sir. Nobody is coming up.
No, don't get scared. You can ask me anything. Everything is reasonably okay for me. It's not necessary that it has to be, everything is a relevant question, I must tell you.
Yes.
Mr. Sir, let me ask
You
something.
begin. That is better. Better, best.
No, I think it's very fascinating. I think as you at some point mentioned that it's very important to know the basics actually, or the basic questions rather than sort of jumping to a certain, let's say, regression analysis. We think that it actually people are obsessed with tools. They are not equipped with the basic information that why, under what circumstances the tool has to be used. I think that's probably one of the very important messages you convey. So I was just sort of wondering, like, is there any way, like, see, one is, as you suggested, that like individual, I very much liked your sort of discussion on this, what you called as a characteristic odds.
Yes.
That I very much like. I think that's a very extremely useful way. But I was wondering, like, is there a way we can sort of like have some kind of a nuanced understanding between the individual characteristics? One is like having kind of a composite index. That is one part. But like between two, let's say something like caste and let's say the rural urban
Correct.
the location. So only if you take these two,
Hmm.
is it possible to like do any further analysis? Like,
Yes. Yes.
I want to know that like whether caste matters more in rural areas and not in urban.
Absolutely. Your question is so much on the dot. I must tell you, Dasababu, that what I did is I displayed this analysis and made this explanation on a binary. That is your characteristics within. But if you have the data and you can generate the same indicator from the raw data by combination characteristics. For instance, you just now told you take two caste group and you take rural urban. So Cartesian product will give you 4 groups. Now these 4 groups outcome if you have, then the same odds will tell you whether it is doing much damage or much of distance in urban area or it is much in the rural area. Therefore, of course, there is another thing which I didn't tell is that you can compute these odds by conditioning also.
Okay.
You can do it rural, within rural, you compute the caste odd, and within urban, you compute the caste odd. So you have two sets,
Okay.
and these 2 sets will reveal to you that where is it actually doing more damage and where it is not. So this is what I say is conditional odd. That's basically same characteristics, conditional. Conditional, you can do it for rich, poor. For instance,
Yeah.
the differences in rich you may not find when you condition it, but you will find it among the poor.
Like, why I asked this, there was a very interesting study. Sorry, am I taking a lot of time
Oh, no, it's okay,
from
okay,
other?
go on.
Very quickly. So I think there was some study done by Arjun Bedi, who is
Yeah.
based in ISS Hague.
Yes.
He and another Rachel Kurian, in fact,
Yes.
this is an Indian.
Yes.
So both of them had done a very interesting study of caste, whether caste mattered for women working in the IT sector.
Yes.
In some of the urban areas, let's say Gurgaon.
Yeah.
So what happened? One thing they are saying, though we may think that it's a very high-tech industry and women are in the domain of anonymity, that is, no one knows their background. Even then, women are conscious not to reveal the full name.
Yes.
So that so they do carry the caste whatever
Yeah.
bias from their rural areas, and even in an unknown area, in urban and also in modern sector. So in that context, I was suddenly reminded
Yeah.
maybe your kind of analysis
Will help. Will help.
will very much help actually.
Yeah.
Sorry, sir. I let others ask.
Yeah. What happened to the children?
Hi, sir. Uh,
Yes. Please go ahead, Govinda. Please.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. This was so informative, sir.
Uh,
But this was the analysis along with the secondary data, sir. But
yes.
let's suppose I like to work on the vulnerability of widow women in Odisha.
Yeah.
So in that case, there is no such secondary data. So if you can, like in the next session, if you can say that how to collect primary data and the basic methods and rules, how to design questionnaire and all those things, then that will be great for all of us. And
Yes.
another thing
But
is that, sir, if possible, please share these PPTs with us. Then yes, sir.
absolutely, that will be Amarendra Das property, not mine.
Yes, sir.
Whenever I have been dragged by him, it is his property. So I
Yes.
mean, personally, I don't have to send. I have to send to him. He can share. But Govinda, one thing I disagree with you, because you
Yes,
say
sir.
that there is no data. I'm a person. I always feel there
No,
is
no,
enough.
no, sir. Yes, sir. Yes.
Let us begin. You are interested in widowhood study in Orissa, where
Yes, sir.
we will get the first data set. Widowhood information are available in NFHS household indicators. If you take percentage of households with widow, NSS data will give percentage of households with widows. Okay, that is one basic data.
Yes.
Second thing is that when you examine widowhood, we are also interested in the age profile of widowhood. Is
Yes, sir.
widowhood of
Young.
what kind of age profile? We are
Uh,
also interested in widowhood being a marital adversity, a social adversity. How does it generate vulnerability? That vulnerability, we can say, are most of the widows in poor households? Are widows' concentration is more among poor, low caste, informal sector
yes,
occupation households? These can be analyzed with national sample survey data. No problem.
yes.
That is not primary, it is available. And I
Yes.
must add to your, it is a very interesting area. Nobody is working, and I think widowhood vulnerability also, you have this data if you go to the social justice ministry site. Why?
Yes, sir.
Because they give benefits, we give
Uh,
pensions, we have a profiling of information about who is receiving the pension, what are the pension receiving, their age, how long they have been widowed, how many years they have been receiving it, all these details. In fact, I am in a committee now who are asking me that I should do all these things. I don't think I'm one person, how many hands I have that I will do everything. But there is possibility that you people should be more smart in exhausting, looking for, generating this information. And once you have Govinda anything with you, I'm
yes,
there
sir.
to take you
Yes,
ahead.
sir.
Don't worry.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll.
Just as a footnote, in fact, right now we finished and we at GIDR finished a study on widowhood, and that is sort of using both, as Govinda was saying, like a lot of, in fact, extensive use of primary data backed by what Mr. Sir was telling about secondary data.
Secondary.
So some publications are forthcoming. Maybe I'll share with Govinda
Yeah,
particularly.
sure.
So,
Anyone else? Everybody understood everything or what? No, please. Yeah, please.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you for the nice presentation. Sir, I am interested to know how to choose the indicators. Like you have mentioned in the slide number 6 that characterization of indicators based on group, like
Uh,
rural, urban, wealth,
uh,
quartile, and caste basis.
mm.
So, how can we take the indicators for any kind of study?
See, it is your choice. I didn't therefore try to limit. I gave illustration with taking one kind of indicator. But if you have these any indicator is nothing but, I showed you one PDF which you saw that 300, 200 indicators are computed and given. It is your choice to choose a group of indicators which represent a certain dimension. Here I was talking about maternal child health. You might be interested in child well-being. You may be interested in women's status. There are women's status indicators. Okay, there are indicators, how educated they are, where are they working, can they make their own decision, like that indicators are there. So in the bunch of those indicators, you can repeat similar exercise, which is characterization, which is reading distance across districts and against the state average, what are the kind of status prevailing status. And also, when you do any indicator conceptualization, let me tell you very frankly, it is your interest area, not nobody's.
Yes, sir.
You have to fix it. I want to do women's status. Like Govinda is interested in widowhood. So anything that you are interested in, then you look for indicators relating to it.
Yes, sir.
Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yes, Bandana.
Namaskar, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, I have a question on the regard of individual odd and characteristics odd. Sir,
Yes.
I know that how to calculate that individual odd by dividing p with that of 1 minus p.
Minus
Again,
P, correct,
said that
correct.
yeah. But how to calculate that characteristic odd? Actually, I was in doubt.
You are in doubt. It is
Yes.
nothing innovation. I will tell you, odd you know to compute, that is P by 1 minus P. So for every characteristics also there is a P.
Yes,
Am I
sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So by the characteristics there is a P, and overall there is a P.
Sir, please tell what is that P and how do you interpret that
Yeah,
P?
right. You see, there is an outcome like 38%. An indicator is 38%. That is overall P. This 38% between rural and urban, for instance, will be rural is 42 and urban is, if rural is 42, urban has to be lesser than that. So,
Yes.
because 38 has to come in the middle, no? Overall, without rural urban. Any indicator you take, total is 38%. That means that P is equal to 0.38 overall. Now, rural P is by computed by 0.42, 42%. The other P has to be computed 38, it will be lesser, it will 35 say. So that will be P is equal to 0.35. Now, you got P by 1 minus P computed for 42, for 38 and for 35. Now, what you are trying to do characteristics odd is, these are characteristics odds and you are computing the ratio of it against P. That is overall P, 38. So if 38 against you compute, the value which is less than 38 will give you a characteristics odd ratio which will be less than 1, and which is actually more, it will give you more than 1. So what happens is that that becomes such a standardized gap that you can compute it over time, relate it over time, cross section, anywhere. You can do anything you want. And those distances, because the entire lecture today, as you see my PowerPoint, if you get, 3 curiosities I started with. We started with what is our curiosity when we look at numbers, how different they are, how dispersed they are, and is there a kind of a comparison we can make between them. These are our fundamental curiosities. And what I gave you is also very fundamental.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
I was thinking Himansu Babu will also ask something there.
And let me ask one question, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, regarding this construction of index,
Ah.
see, when we are dealing with say 30 districts or 29 states, making an index no is perfectly fine.
Ah.
Suppose we are collecting say data for 500 households,
Yes.
and some people also try to make an index.
Ah.
So, is it okay, or there is some problem, or we should use the index only for say presenting the summary statistics like for state level or national level, or we can also use the index for such large household survey data?
Here, Amartya, the problem is when you have household level information, the information type matters, whether you will index or not. Your information type are categorical information. Certain things, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, you have. So what will happen in those kind of indexing? If it is all yes, suppose you code it as 1, you get a value. If it is all no, you code it as 0, you get a value. So what happens? You are getting a bound. Once you have a bound, for every household, you will get a value between. This is theoretical bound. This is not true. All won't be yes, all won't be no. It is if you have a categorical variable. If you have a continuous variable, what do you do when we do an index? I would say that if it is a continuous variable, we always adopt a distributional approach. We make that into ranges, that continuous variable, and distribute the household across it. Okay. Now, If there are two continuous variables like that, you are able to read them in a bivariate situation. You make a x-axis one, this axis, and distribute the households. Here, the same odd comes into play again. Why? Because in each group, the percentage of households that is represented, I think you understand, I taught you long back marginal distribution and all that. One characteristics distribution gives you a distribution at the end, row total and column total gives a distribution. So against the total distribution, you again start computing odds you can compute. You were asking me about indexing. There's no need to index here, because you are now interested in how does one characteristics display itself when I condition it against one category of other characteristics. To make it not keep it abstract, suppose one characteristics is income status, another characteristics is occupation. Okay, you have hierarchically put 4 occupation, and when income status is richer, the occupation pattern is different. How do you know? Because when you do conditional odd, conditionally you put that if they're rich, what is the distribution of an occupation? When they are poor, what is the, so you will have dominant agriculture in poor and dominant organized sector work in rich. So you will get this analysis from household data. Always indexing is not it. This is because indicator I was talking.
No, sir. Why I was asking that indexing? See, when we suppose have done a large survey,
Household.
say 500 households, and we are going to present it in a paper or in a report, you cannot put the index values for 500 households in the report.
No.
You will be presenting the summary statistics of those indices. So then, should we go for index, or using better other indicators are always better? That's what I was just.
No. I think you should not go for an index.
Yes,
That
that's
index has a meaning. I mean, we are presenting the district, distance, like that, what I just now told.
Yes,
But
exactly.
each household, you can't do distance like that. No?
In fact, the reason why I was asking is that sometimes people end up doing this. Recently, I had gone to this Ravensa University. There was a Odisha research conclave, and I found a poster. Why I am giving the example of that poster, like how people don't think about the data and just present something.
Yes.
That student has presented like whether the MSMEs in KBK region is say less than other part of that is the message that they want to see, like the presence of MSMEs in KBK region and comparing it with other districts. And what they have done, they have taken the number of MSMEs in KBK region and they have compared it the MSMEs in rest say 22 districts.
Yeah.
In KBK now there are 8 districts, 28 other districts. So they are saying that see in 8 districts we have say 30 MSMEs. In other 22 districts we have say 300 MSMEs. And that is why the number of MSMEs available in KBK is far less than
non-standardized comparison, basically.
Exactly. So, and I told, in fact, I gave a lecture to her for almost half an hour, and then I told that see, this is just actually
not done. Yeah.
This is not correct. So you should drop this, completely. And this is not analysis at all. So people don't understand the data actually. Before we go for doing any kind of analysis, somebody should understand that why we are doing that analysis. And similarly, that index also, I have seen sometimes the students make some presentation and they say that I have created an index or say 300 households. And then how do you present that? So that's why I was asking this question so that
Absolutely.
be aware of the problem.
Thanks, Amal. Good.
Sir, namaskar.
Namaskar, Himanshu babu, kah.
ନାଇଁ ମୁଁ ତ ମାନେ ମୁଁ ଟିକେ ମଝିରେ ପଳେଇଥିଲି, ମୋର ଖାଲି ଗୋଟେ ଦିଟା ଏଠି ବାଣୀବାରରେ 2-3ଟା ଡିପାର୍ଟମେଣ୍ଟରେ DRC ରେ ଅଛି।
ଆଚ୍ଛା।
ସେ କଣ ହଉଛି, ସେ ଯୋଉ ଡାଟା they are using, they don't know whether it is nominal or ordinal or ratio.
That's
And the ordinal data, they are finding average, they are calculating average, they are doing regression on that. And I'm unable to make them understand many times in law department, psychology department, sociology department. But they are telling us everybody is doing this, and management is the highest. They are taking the Likert scale and finding the average of that.
yeah.
So regarding that only, if you'll sometime take one class on this also,
Yeah.
this
Definitely.
measurement issue and treatment for that.
Yeah.
Ordinal has a different treatment than a ratio treatment, and the
So,
treatment for nominal is different than the treatment for ordinal. That is the most fundamental thing for which they do regression with nominal variable.
And nothing less than quadratic equation. Not quadratic equation. They use structural equation.
my God.
Nothing less than that structural equation.
Oh my God. Because they don't know anything that package only does. So
Yes, exactly.
Visualize.
Now sometimes some people they are telling, sir, Likert scale, can somebody find average? Is it at a meaning to find average for Likert scale?
Yes.
Sir, what is your opinion? Is it
No.
not? No meaning is there.
There has to be scales are made because there are measurements particularly made out as to how will you measure when there are scaled information, when you measure when there are other kind of information. So there is that can be a separate lecture. I can give a full lecture on what you should not do, not
Yes,
only what you
yes,
do, but
yes.
what you should not do.
And what Amarendra was asking about indexing, say this composite index, so find for that we should have a weightage minimum. Without
Sure.
weightage, so we cannot find out index. So what are the methods are there to giving weightage? This is whether principal component or any other method or your own, how do give this weightage also? That also sometime if possible, just we want a lecture on that also.
Yes. I'll give that. Is not an issue.
For that, participants will have to come to Bhavani Patna.
Yeah. Bhavani Patna, I think I won't have any freedom there. That is their own. What they choose, I will teach them. That's all.
No, sir. First 1 day we have our freedom. We will give what this type of fundamental thing we will give.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much. I think with this we'll conclude this session. And Professor Minakethan Behra is already ready with the poster. So the participants will now listen from Professor Minakethan Behra how to make a good poster. Because in Bhavan Patna, we are looking for so many posters from all our participants. I think they will send at least one of their good students to Bhavan Patna with a good poster. So
So thank
now
you.
we are moving to our
Yeah. So now is it audible?
Yes, it is audible. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you, Amananda. So I think before I will go to it. Now we are discussing on this data. So many things that someone is speaking about, to the primary data, secondary data, questionnaire design. My own experience working with students and also with teachers. This is very, very essential that whether you are making poster, whether you are writing a paper, or whatever you are writing, so at least you have that much understanding of how to write a paper or how to make a poster. Okay, so maybe so with this 1 hour, I try my best to give my own experience on this issue. So broadly emphasizing on these dimensions of this how to make poster presentation. You just the slide is visible. Just look at it, Amanandra. Is it visible?
Yeah. Full screen.
Yeah, now it is full screen.
It is coming. Wait. Yes. Full screen has not come.
Full screen ta asini.
Full screen ta kar dijiye tomorrow photo.
Okay, I think there is some problem with the browser. So take the slide move kale. তাহলে হবে না। So you escape the full presentation. Otherwise, it will not be visible to the audience. So you escape and yeah, now you do it. Yes.
Is it
Now
visible?
slide show. Yes.
Visible?
Now
Yeah,
it
yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think also before those who are interested to go to do this poster presentations in this our next conference. So my own thing is that at least you should go to many books are available, many articles are available. So you just, I will share this PPT, and those who are interested, just go to this, what are these reading list that is given, how to write a good research poster. So basically you have to first ask yourself that what is the use of poster, what is the basically what is the difference between poster and a paper or a academic presentations that we are making in seminar and conference. So if you understand, most of the student in my own experience, that when they are presenting some paper, so they are making, just they are preparing a PPT. Suppose if you are presenting a paper in the conference and seminar, so without they are understanding, they show the PPT and they read line by line. So you have to remember one thing: when you are presenting a PPT in the conference or in a seminar, so you just show the PPT to the audience and you try to present your own understanding, because you have given that much time on that. In the same way, so maybe I will, in the next slide, I will make the difference of this academic poster and the these academic presentations and the manuscript that we are talking about. So in most cases, like the work that you have done, maybe 1 year, 2 years, or you are working on your research work. So if you are not able to, suppose you are providing, many cases you will find in this conference. So there are some specific themes are there. So in that specific themes, maybe there is a possibility that you will not be able to fit your the area that you want to present. So in that sense, there is a probability that your paper will not be selected in that case. So nowadays, okay, so everywhere, so there is a, you have some sets that you have to make, not in presentation mode, but you have to make your poster. So when you just look at it, so you just go to the slide, what is there, so I'm not going for that. So if you go for, you make your poster in a such a manner, okay, so that within this 5 minutes, so if you are presenting your research work in front of the audience, that the audience will able to understand and also able to provide their feedback, okay, using, and this is the first point that you have to keep in mind. The second thing that you have to keep in mind, that whenever you are making poster, so you try to, all the points that I have discussed here in this slide, that try to be provide as much as informations in a minimum text and maximum in the format of tables, graph, all the format that basically in terms of graphical representations. So you have to, you as a researcher, so if you go for, so you just look at it. So when you say that how, what do you mean by this poster, so you have to keep in mind three things. You just look at it: poster, your oral presentations, and your manuscript, that paper you are writing for the journals. So if you go for overall, the point you will find, so the main theme that you have to follow, so you will find that you have to emphasize your abstract, you have to emphasis on your these particularly the problem, the basically your research questions, your objective, your hypothesis. So everything that you have to emphasis on that. Then also you have to emphasis on this your methodology, these methods and the data part that sir has already explained on that. And the last part is your result and discussions. So if you go for either you talk about poster, or either you talk about articles for the journals, or the paper for the conference. So broadly, so you have to cover this point. That means, so generally in the research work, that we emphasize the concept of the question why, the question what, the question how. So these three questions that in the research language we use: the problem, the statement of problem, the question why, and the question what, the objective of the study, and the question how, the methodology of the study. So this three pattern that you have to very clear on this part. Because why I'm giving this emphasis now, this last section that we are talking about, Himanshu sir is speaking, I have seen many times many students do not know the what do you mean by nominal data, what do you mean by ordinal data, what do you mean by scale data, and if the data is different, what type of statistical test we want to use. I have many experience. You just ask. So as a teacher, so at least you should be very clear on these three components. And on this basis of the data part, we are using the statistical test. Because of this, last time I was with a PhD defense. So when I asked a PhD student, she has written minimum seven hypotheses. Seven hypotheses. And if you go for this analysis chapter, no single line about the hypothesis. No single line. Forget about the test. When I asked that, they say that by mistake it was there. You just imagine this is the answer. And also, like the test that we are using, okay, so many times we should not, why we use t-test, why we, many, I have seen ANOVA, I have seen t-test, I have seen this inequality, I have seen this multiple linear regress, every test, because computer, if you provide the data and you are finding something. Okay, so my only question is that whenever you are writing a academic poster or paper or a seminar presentations, so at least you have to very clear on this aspect. Okay, so you just look at this slide. So I hope everyone knows all this academic poster that basically, so it is one way, one-to-one communication. You as a researcher, you are expressing, you are presenting in front of others your research work, and immediately you are getting the feedback from the particularly on the topic that you are working, or your research is in this process or in the initial stage, or sorry, in this last stage of your research work, and you want to present. So accordingly, so you will revise that things. So basically, in if you go for, so all these points, so basically when the academic poster that you are talking about, you have to create that this research, this summary of research in a such a manner that you can attract the people, the audience. Okay, so all these points, so I am not going for detail. You just look at the read. If you go for, so you just if you compare with this poster with manuscript, that article, that paper we are writing, remember one thing. So always when you are presenting poster, so try to present your findings in the form of visuals, in the form of table, in the form of line graph, in the form of pie diagram. So everything that your result, the broad result, that should be presented in the form of visual. That will attract the audience, the other researcher to understand this. So this point that you have to keep in mind, you just look at this point, that whenever you are writing, you are making a poster. I hope everyone knows. You just look at it. So you try to provide the test minimum as much as possible. Everything should be presented in the form of image, in the form of table, in the form of graph, in the form of chart, in terms of photos. Okay, so in terms of map, so everything that you have to clearly provide on this issue. Okay, so and if you go for, okay, so you have to, so that in that case, so all these things that you have to keep in mind when you compare with the manuscript, or in manuscript, in the article journals. So you have to provide everything. You have to provide your introduction, your background, your theoretical background, and your research gap, your objective, your methodology, your result and discussions, your conclusion, your reference. Because you have to, so you know, generally in the most of the journals we provide 6 to 7,000 on this particular manuscript that you are writing for the journals. So every detail is there. So but here, so this individual reading your article and getting this information, but here you have to sell yourself, that whenever you are making poster, that you have to attract, you have to present in a such a manner that you can clarify, you can get feedback from the audience, that those who are the fellow researcher listening to your poster. Okay, so this is the points that you have to clear on this point. Then if you go for, and also if you are going for this oral presentations, I have already explained. Okay, so most of the cases if you go for, so in this if you go for, so there we are comparing, one to one comparison is there. You can clarify, you can get your feedback, you can improve whenever you will suggest for submitting your writing articles or report, anything you want to write. If you go, this is the important, at least I should start from here. Whenever you are writing, you have to, so what is my poster presentation on this? Basically you have to ask yourself that on the research, so the area that I want to present, or I want to make a poster presentations. So because this is your research work that you have done, so you want to present that research in front of others. Okay, so then you if you go for, then why you, these questions that most of the researcher, morely in many cases I found, whenever I ask, that the students, most of the cases they will say they do not know the research gap. I'm telling my own experience. If you go for in the present contemporary system, the all the researcher, so they are making a separate as a review of literature. This is not a review of literature. This is the abstract of the 30 or 20 articles, and these 20 pages is about this review of literature. If you ask the students that tell me what is your research gap, so you believe me, I'm telling this, including if you go for most of the researcher, they don't have a clarity on what is the research gap. So my only request is that those who are now that you all are teacher here, so whenever you start your research work, the first duty that you have to always ask yourself that what is this research gap. And interesting, suppose if you are writing this, making chapter as a review of literature, in the last paragraph, at least you should write a paragraph that having gone through the all this literature, my study or my research work is different from others are as follows. That at least reflect in your, whether you are writing article, whether you are presenting in the conference, or whether you are writing or making poster for this conference. So that is very, very essential. So basically, so you have to, the questions that you want to, why you are working on this topic, and this is the, what is the logic behind to working on this, that you have to very clear when you are making your poster. This is the second part that you have to very clear on this. And then you have to ask yourself, what are the data source? I have already explained. I hope I will, you just look at it if you go for. So I have explained this point, this following points. I will explain detail. You just look at it. I think here, again. If you go for, I think I will. If you go for, when you are making poster, so broadly, so in your poster that you are making with the help of PowerPoint, so the technicality I will come to later. So you have to clearly, this is the general format that you have to follow. Other some variations are like this. If you go for the first, you have to emphasize what is the title of your, the poster that you want to present in the conference. And remember one thing, so when you are title, so remember one thing, so this title many times, so because this will motivate the other researcher to listen that what research you are making. So if your title is very long, no clarity, no, so in that sense, so no one will take that much interest to listen to your posters. So in that context, so you have to always, so you have to, in the title, so you have to make very clear short title and catchy. And also, so you make suspense that maybe when the researcher read at your title, maybe so many questions in their mind, so he may or she may ask that clarifications. So you have to make in that way. And the other point that is there, that you have to clear on this point, that is in terms of that, you know, that in this first bold, so you have to make your, this maybe you, the authors, basically those your name, or if you are combined authors, so the, or if your supervisor is there, so you have to clearly mentions their name, first author, second author, third author, and their affiliation, university or college. So this is the first part that you have to, whenever you are writing, so you have to very clear on that. And another point that you have to keep in mind, that most of this, if you go for the second point, whenever you are this is also remember one thing. So not for the poster, but also if you are writing articles also for the journals, or if you are writing paper for the conference also, so that you should make the title in a such a manner that maybe so people will interest to read your abstract or your detail or your conclusion or anything. Okay, so you have to make, whether you are making poster or journal, all these things. This is the first part, important part that you have to cover. I hope everyone knows nothing and anything, maybe other points that I will explain at the time of discussions. And the second point, remember one thing, when you are writing this abstract, remember one thing. So most of this you have to, whenever you are, because this is a poster, so you have to basically, whenever you are writing a paper, it is close to 7,000 words. And in case of your abstract in a journal, you are 350 words you are writing. But you have to write in a such a manner, if you are writing poster, so close to 150 or 100 words, with your research objective, your research design, or your data collections, the methods you have used, and your broad findings and your broad conclusions. So as much as possible, so every information in the abstract you have to present. Remember one thing I should clarify here, my own understanding, that if you are writing a abstract for the journals, and if you are writing, remember one thing, there is journal, so there is a keywords are there. Most of the keywords, if you are writing, remember here in the poster you are not writing any keyword, but if you are writing for the conference paper or journals, so you are writing keywords. Most of the researcher make this mistake, that most of the keyword, so either it is try to avoid whatever written the title of the paper, that title of the paper, the keyword should not reflect in this, in the keyword that you are making, that should not reflect in your title of your paper. Most of the cases people do this. So remember one thing, you should provide the keyword in a such a manner that maybe the researcher, the so maybe interest on that area, so you are making this keyword so related to, not that clearly reflect in the abstract on the title. So maybe some new keywords that you related to your research findings, that or this result discussion that you have to provide on this. Okay, so this is the second part. But in case of poster, so you try to write your broad abstract or central theme of your poster, because you are going to present in front of others in the one line or in two lines. This is my broad findings or broad objective of my poster. So that you have to very clear on that. Then remember one thing, so this third point that we want to, so this is your introduction part. If you go for, so or many people we write in journals, so we write introduction, we write background, we write theoretical background, we write literature, so we identify the gap. So all these points, remember one thing, so your introduction you should provide in a such a manner, so these questions, why and what. Okay, you just look at this, the point that I have clearly mentioned, that whenever you are writing your introductions, maybe so 200 words or 150 words, because you are making poster, so you have to very clear from the first day onwards whenever you are making a poster that okay, so this is why you are interested to work on this topic. Okay, so your this is nothing but your this research problem, and this the questions what is nothing but your objective of your study. Okay, so your introduction part, so you should write in a such a manner, so you will address your review of literature, you will address your gap, you will address the question of your this question of why that is the problem, and also you address the objective of this, and also the theoretical background on which your research is based on that. You have to very clear on that. Okay, so this is the background that you have to whenever you are emphasizing on this part. Then remember one thing, this is very so within this all these words of 150 or 250 that you have to write the main theoretical background, taking your objective, your importance, rationale of the study, so you have to provide that. Then if you go for this the third questions that always you we as a researcher we have to ask yourself, that we call as a question how. This is the methodology. So most of this, as a student of economics, it is my own experience. So they play with data, my own experience. I would just read at maybe certain point that I would share, that we are very strong in econometrics. We are very strong in analysis of secondary data. But I find nowadays that there is a perception among researchers, that is maybe true most of the cases, that you if you don't have any model in your research paper, any econometrics model or any statistical analysis is not there, your paper will not be published in maybe in good journals. Some journals, so it is they make it mandatory. That is, yes, that is some extent that is true. Some journals are there, so without this statistical work they are doing. But this is not my concern. My concern is that whenever you are using multiple regression, whether you are using ANOVA, whether you are doing factor analysis, whether you are doing normality test, okay, so you have to very clear that why I am using this statistical test. From this statistical test, what is my understanding on that statistical test or the model that I am using. And second thing that you have to very clear, so many people are using the same repetition of the same model. I think, so what is your originality on this model? If you are writing the same variables that you have taken into account, nothing different. And maybe he has calculated for the Andhra Pradesh, same data, same variables, and same model you have applied for the Odisha. Yes, you have applied. There is no restriction. But you have to ask yourself that what is my originality, what is my contribution to do that. Okay, so maybe someone is with this, because this is very important. If many people, I am telling you, if you ask the students, many people do not know that on which basis they have selected the district of one, suppose Bhadrak. In the interview board, I asked some students that why you have selected Bhadrak district. She was doing research in this migration study. So I asked that why you have taken Bhadrak district. And you know the answer, that because Bhadrak district is my own district. So because of that, I am doing this study. Yes, that is some extent true. But you as a researcher, you have to justify that why you have taken into account on the basis of which parameter you have taken into account for selection of the Bhadrach district. Most of the cases. And also if you go for this methodology part, if you go for, they do not know. Only one dialogue, they have random sample we have taken into account. Otherwise, they will say, if you ask them, what do you mean by random? Random means random. Okay, so another option is that the best, if you go for, sir, we'll use the case of purposive sampling. So at least if you are using purposive sampling, so there is some base. So you have to justify that. So broadly, so remember one thing. So it is very, very essential, all the researcher, for us also as a teacher, so we should be very, very clear that suppose you will ask your sample size. Why you have, when I ask my students that you have students of, so you have taken only 56 sample size. Why? You have 2000 sample household and you have taken 56. What is the justification for that? That you have to provide justification. You are the student of economics, so you have to explain. Otherwise, the researcher, maybe the thesis, those who are evaluating, so no clarity on that. So you have to explain. Suppose maybe if you are taking 60 sample size for your as a primary survey, as a student of economics, so you clearly tell to this researcher that I have used this most of the secondary data using the statistical model and for my research work, and to supplement the findings from the secondary data, is it visible in the field or not from the primary base? I want to just as a case study to supplement that. So you as a researcher, you have to clarity on that concept. Okay, so that is the points. Other points maybe I will explain these things on this. And this last, many people, so I'm sorry to say that many people do not know the difference between questionnaire and schedule. I'm telling you, I'm last time, once thesis defense, the student is again and again telling, I have used the questionnaire, I have used this questionnaire, I have used this questionnaire. When I ask the student, what is the difference between questionnaire and schedule? Whether you have done through interview, face-to-face interview, or you have sent it through questions. So she said that I have done through the face-to-face, I have gone to field and I have collected the data. So you should know clearly that I have not used questionnaire, I have used schedule to collect the information from my data. So this is the some basic understanding that you have to very, very clear on that. Another point that I think I should clarify here, that most of the students, there is a perception that you have to write a hypothesis in your research work. Please, as a student of economics, I always encourage my student to write a hypothesis, but it is not mandatory that you have to write a hypothesis. And second thing, if you are writing a hypothesis, remember one thing, you have to accept or reject. That should be reflected in your discussion chapter. That is a must. And in the first chapter number 1, introduction chapter, you are writing 3 hypotheses, but there is no single line in the discussion chapter. That at least you should avoid. This is my own experience I'm telling. So many students, you are the researcher because you are teacher, so you are now supervising students, so you have to be clear on that. Third point that I should clarify here, that if you go for this point of, if you are going, suppose I am a student of sociology, I am a student of anthropology, I am working, so I don't have any statistical background, I have not, but my supervisor telling that you write the hypothesis. If you are writing, you can write hypothesis, but so also you are not going to test in statistical using any statistical tools, but you can, whatever the field fact that you find, from that you can justify that through this data I accept or reject this hypothesis. That this first point, I think. And another, I think someone is speaking on this questionnaire design. I think many times we have conducted in our this Moga Sikha Parishad, that we frequently conducting this different program and research methods, how to do field survey, how to questionnaire design, funding sources. Maybe in I will maybe if time permit also, we are ready to do on this platform to share our knowledge and to help to our the students and teachers here. Okay, so this is the point that you have to very clear on this. And one thing that I think Mr. Sir is telling, they do not know the difference between indicator and variables. Because if you do not know the difference between indicator and variables, so most of the time, so it is very difficult for you to develop the questionnaire, this question that you want to develop in this case. Maybe some other points I'm deviating. So you have to very clear on that, that when you are, so you should very clear on the concept, indicators and variables. Maybe so whenever you the discussion, so I will clarify on this. But you, because you have to identify what are my indicators and what is my variables, then only you can proceed, you can formulate question as much as possible. If you do not know your indicators, it is real sense many students do not know that, do not write that. Okay, so as a researcher, whenever you formulate your objective, immediately start identifying what is my indicators, my variables that I want to explore. Then only you can do a good research. Okay, so now if you go for, this is the things that within this, so in whenever you are making poster, so you have the clarity and you have that much understanding that you can clarify the fellow researcher that whom you are selling this research work that you have done. Because most of the cases you will get the feedback from these methods, data and methods. So then only you can revise it. If it is once this methodology is wrong, your whole analysis is wrong. If you are using wrong statistical tools, so that will also, like this nominal data is there, you are applying average. Nominal data is there, so you are applying any regression. Okay, so you have to very clear on that. Okay, so you with this same, so 115 to 200 words that you have to write in your poster this part. Then remember one thing, so you have to after your data and methods. Okay, so you just explain that. Okay, so if you have done the secondary data, most of the one limitation I find, maybe this is my personal view as a student of economics. So most of the students in University of Hyderabad also they prefer this is not University of Hyderabad. Most of the cases you will find that we work in the secondary data, that is fine, and with econometrics model, that is fine. But the thing is that I always say that at least to supplement that secondary data, you should encourage to this young researcher to work on the field, at least make one chapter on the basis of the field data. And this is my personal view, because most of the students hesitate. As a student of economics, they think that, okay, we will work on the secondary data. Secondary data, I always support that. If you are working on the 90% on the secondary data, at least 10% you work on this primary data. Why I'm telling you, this is my own experience, that many students in economic, if you go for, they do not know. Suppose if you go for how to make a table, cross tabulations. Okay, they do not how to make that cross tabulations. What is the basis? They know, yes, they understand everything. Okay, so they don't have that much understanding how to make that tables. Okay, many cases are there. So if you are doing some field survey, field data, and using this field data, if you are using some understanding, so that maybe increase your weightage of your thesis work or any project work. So maybe, so this is my personal view on that. So I think this. Okay, so now if you go for this after your this poster on the data pattern, so you have to provide on this. Then this is very, very important. What is your result? What is your broad findings? So remember one thing, in whenever you are writing a paper for the journals, so you write, okay, demographic profile, the table, these interpretations, everything. But here poster, that you have to, okay, 1 2 3, these are my broad findings for my research work, 1 2 3 bullet point. Then from that, okay, so and this we should be. And also remember one thing, so always you maybe, so I always say not, you should avoid also table, because it is also difficult to understand immediately to looking at the table. You can provide table, but it is better to use chart, graphs, or all other you can provide table certain, but always visual representation. Your findings should be represented in the visual form. So because whenever you are addressing to this audience, to the other researcher, so immediately, because he or she is interested on your broad findings, only things, what is your research gap, what is your methodology, what is your broad findings. So whenever you are, so the main findings, the key findings that you have to in the bullet point, and that should be print in your mind also, because you want to address to this audience, because you just in front of your poster you are standing and you are presenting your main findings. So if you do not know your main findings, if you do not know your methodology, then means you will not able to attract the people. Why people will come to listen to you? So that things that you have to very clear on this point. Okay, so I have already, so with this 150 and 200 watts, that you have to very clear on this dimension. And also remember one thing, you have to, one thing your discussion and your conclusion, if you are writing a manuscript, most of the cases you will find they, my objective is different, my discussion and the conclusion I am deriving also different, and the policy implication I am suggesting different. Okay, and also remember one thing, that maybe I will come to this point, I will explain. So this broad point, that you as a researcher, so you have to very clear on this point, that how you will present within this 200 words your broad findings. Okay, so you have to very clear and try to present the broad findings in the visual form as much as possible. Okay, so you have to keep in mind, I will show you some one format in the next slide. So uh, Amarendra, so I can speak up to 5 o'clock now.
हाँ हाँ 5टा बंद କରିପାରିବେ.
But if you give some time, we can have discussion. Maybe.
Okay, then maybe yeah, I will do that. Yeah, maybe I.
You should give 20 minutes for discussion.
Yeah, I will do that. Yeah. So maybe I'll do that. Okay, so if you go for, remember one thing. So this is the first, this part that you have to, this result part and the result and discussions. Because if you go for most of the students, most of the researcher, okay, so it is they only write the descriptive analysis of the tables. In my own understanding, most of the cases, remember, at the researcher, they just describe the whatever the table they find from this statistical test. Remember one thing, whenever you are writing a discussions or result, remember first point, your result followed from your research question, research objective, research hypothesis. First point you have to keep in mind. And the second point you have to keep in mind, that your result that you are finding from the field or from the research work, that should try your best to supplement from the existing literature. Most of the cases, so we miss that. So my request to every teacher here, okay, so you have to discuss, so what is the literature understanding on these findings that we are debating or critically we are discussing? So what is their view? Maybe try to interlink that part. And also, if you go for, so that will give a more weightage, more demand of your result and discussion part. And one thing that this, if you go for conclusion, so this is most of the cases, I in the conference students also, if you go for the up to their result, there is a different story. And if you go for your conclusion, that is another story. So they are giving conclusion of their general understanding. Suppose I'm working on tribals. So I said tribals are poor, tribals are low literacy, huge unemployment rate, there is no employment rate. This own understanding, hard words. But what is your findings from the field? That, okay, suppose I'm giving one example. Suppose I found that is a very language problem in that, in the of Mankaria tribe in this particular, suppose I'm working on that. So in that context, so your suggestion should be that the language they are speaking, suppose Kandh, they are speaking Kui language. So your textbook that should be reflected in the Kui language are the primary base. The conclusion that you want to provide from the field data you find, not on the language problem and you provide mother tongue language. No, you have to very specific whatever you find from the field, and that should be reflected in your conclusion. That is very essential. And another point, most of us, we conclude the conclusion in a general manner. Please don't do that. Your conclusion should clearly be very specific with your objective, and that will give you a addition to this society or policy implication. Okay, so that is the most important. Suppose I say, immediately I ask all the researcher that you tell me what is your contribution of doing this research to the society. So you have to very clear on this whenever you are writing on this. And the last part, that remember one thing, so you, that what is your further, what is your words for this future researcher, those who want to work on this topic. So what is the next step that you want to, that should be clearly visible. This is the important dimension that you want to explain in your poster, and also in your, if you are writing for academic conference or your paper. Okay, so that is the broad idea. So if you are presenting on this, or this is the broad point, the organization step that you have to follow, starting from your introduction, your abstract, your the methods and data source, your result and your discussions. After that, you find the reference, and then we this acknowledgement. If you have anything on that, so you have to, in the last part, that you have to provide the reference and the acknowledgement. So this is the things, you just look at it. This is the one pattern that if you go for in the landscape format, if you are making in the PowerPoint, so we have already discussed these things. Suppose you are student of JNU, or you are student of Utkal University, or student of Ravensa. So you have to provide the logo that the both sides, you as a student of this. And if you go for in the middle part, this you have to provide, so the title, I have already explained so detail. So the title should be clearly visible, at least in the slide I have. So this, at least within 4 feet, anyone can see it and read the title that you have to, and the affiliations of authors, the abstract, the second, if you go for second, introduction, then the third, materials, methods, similarly figures, okay, then you the results, then your conclusion, then your reference, then your acknowledgement. This is the generally, if you are making a poster, so you have to broadly follow this pattern that we have already discussed. You just look at it, and this is the vertical, you just look at same things, you just look at it, this the title that we are making. Okay, so if you go for, so poster title, the this researcher, the abstract, the introduction, the figure, all this is the format that you have to present. This is the broad outline. Your poster should be clearly visible in this app. You just look at it. I think I am nothing anything new, everyone knows. Okay, so another one dimension that you have to be very clear on, that whenever you are presenting this poster, I have slide, don't have time on that, maybe we'll discuss, I will share this slide. So if you go for, please don't read this slide, sorry, the poster, never read. Always, if you go for, if you go for, so you just look at it. I think if this is the format, I'm not going for detail, would make, you just look at it, read it. I think you just look at it. This is the format that you have to clear technical your this at least 4 point, and don't use this capital letter, because capital letter in the poster it is very difficult to read for this the researcher. So always in this case that you have to avoid your on this is the technicality. So those who are making on this, so always try to make your avoid to use capital letter. This is the first condition that you have to keep. And the front size, this is the at least from the 4 feet or 3 feet that you can, it is visible. And the bullet point you are using, and the you have to make it bold, all this point, and your title, your heading, your text, your chat. So the front that you have to always try to use the two formats that generally we use. One is Arial and Time Roman. Okay, so you have to very clear on this dimension, on this technicality point. So you have to clear on this. And then you, whether you are, I hope the different types of chart that we are using, the bar chart, the horizontal bar, the line chart, and they are used on that. So that we have to clear on this. Then another point, these are the format software that you have to use this posters. So this PowerPoint that we are using, and this is the if you go for, I hope everyone, so before you finalize your poster, so at least you ask 2 times 3 times in front of mirror. You have to very clear on that. Most of the cases nowadays, it is my own experience, that whenever you are chairing a section, and you as a researcher, also a teacher also, I have many times seen, so they take a paper or they take the PowerPoint and they read line by line, nothing else. So if, and also interesting, if your chairperson is telling please stop, on the immediately you have to stop. I have seen many times, also teacher, not student, teacher also not take that to give me 2 minutes, they will take 10 minutes, and the chairperson is reminding 2 times 3 times, but they are not listening. So immediately my humble request is that you as a researcher remember one thing, that you should not read the slide. You should just open the slide and try to speak on whatever understanding you have with eye to eye contact. This is the first point that you have to. When your chairperson is telling that you should stop. Then another dimensions. So this is my own experience. I'm sharing. Please don't take it otherwise. We as researchers, same thing. This is the issue of identity crisis, in the sense that if you go for, so suppose I am a PhD student, so I have done this econometrics model, so I as a external expert or I as a audience, if I say, remember one thing, that okay, this model is, maybe if you have done this model, so it will be better. Okay, so you should accept the feedback. It is not the time that you should debate. Most of the researcher, if you will tell one thing, they will tell three things. So please, we as a researcher, every time we are learning. So whatever suggestions you are getting may be wrong, you accept it, go through it. Maybe you find it is useful, you accept it. If you not find useful, not accept it. But you don't make conflict with the, suppose any question section is going on and you are answering. Please don't do that. Okay, so this is the my second point. These things that my own experience, that you have to things. And one important point, after this presentation, you just another one slide, then I will stop. I will not read on this. You just look at it. Here, whenever you are presenting, so in front of others, so you have that clarity, your body language, your understanding. So everything, you have that confidence to tell others. So don't think that other people knows. This is the, I personally, my own experience is that most of researchers, so they have done a good work, but they don't have that much confidence in speaking in terms of English, or maybe clarity or nervousness. So that demotivate to speak in front of others. Please don't think, you just imagine that I am the master of this work. Okay, so I am addressing, I am speaking. So you have that much commanding on yourself. You just go to the slide. I hope everyone knows. No one is, nothing is new. And important fact, if you go for this, the broad idea or the central theme from this poster presentation, that one thing, that you will find the feedback for your improving your research work, for your further research work, for your publications. This is the first important point that you will find from this if you go for the poster presentations. Because if you are going for this oral presentation in the conference, you have, remember one thing, you will tell the chairperson, tell me in 5 minutes. You present your 5 minutes. You have prepared for 2 hours. You have made 20 slides, and in 2 minutes you share many times. So that means you are not able to present the way you want. First point, which is not possible. You can also present there. You can clarify. And another point. So you, if you go for the second important point, you will not get this much feedback. Nowadays, yes, some seminars are there, so very limited time is there, but most of the cases, okay, so you will find this now, this if you go for the seminar, so you present in the 5 minutes. So, but here in the poster, so you will get many people, many feedback on your research work. So you just write down after, whenever you are this, someone is, if you other co-author is there, so whatever suggestions you are getting, you just try to write down, and then after that you go through it, revise it, and then proceed further. This is the, for your help, for your future research work. This is the first important benefit from this poster presentation. Another presentation, if you go for that, you go for the network, the academic network that you will connect each other. Okay, so this is very, very important. Remember one thing, suppose it is very, if you are presenting a paper in the seminar, in a conference, maybe many people not able to recognize. But if you are presenting in the poster, and okay, so someone is interested on that area, so maybe, so the academic network, okay, or collaborative research work, maybe in your future work, it will improve. I think many other slides are there. To explain, but I am not going for this the explanation. So I think here, if you have I have not explained. This is the. I will stop here. So I stop my. Is it visible? This is yeah. Hello. Yeah. So Amarendra, I think I should stop here. So maybe whatever, maybe any questions that I think.
Yeah, we can now take questions. Like I think Niharika was asking, could you please explain some technical aspects of making a poster? Niharika, you may unmute and directly ask like what kind of technicalities you are asking.
So
Sir,
I
namaste.
have.
Niharika, yes, Niharika, go ahead.
Sir, please kindly could you please explain something more about the technical aspects of making posters?
You just look at it whenever you are making. So I have already explained, I have shared this technicality aspect that if you go for this in this slide I have, so make there, if you go for like technicality that you have the font size you have to taken into Arial, then your text should be in time Roman, and then at least your titles at least 70 to 70 75 80 points in this the word, and the heading also you have to keep in mind to 40 to 48. I have shared this PPT. I hope
Sir,
if you are.
please kindly share the PPTs with
Yes,
us.
yes, yeah, I will share this. And
Okay, sir.
also, if
Thank
you
you.
are writing the test, so at least it should be at least 24 front. Okay, so points. And also, if you are writing charts, that is also. So at least other technicality are there. Many technicality are there. So you can just look at it. It is very nothing you can usually do this. Nothing is there. But you have to only, my concern is that there should be clarity on that. Technicality is very easy. So in the this Microsoft PowerPoint you can do it, but the clarity of this, that the way that I say that the title, your abstract, your introduction, your methodology, your conclusion, that you have to clearly reflect it, and in a very concrete way, and you have understanding on that you have
Oh,
to clearly on that.
okay, sir. Thank you.
Dr. Behra, the only technicality acceptable in international format is 4 by 3.
Huh.
Length of the poster is 4 feet by 3 feet. That's the international standard. And multicolor.
Yeah.
For ease of clarity, multicolor.
Yeah, many conference organizers provide their own space.
Yes, yeah.
So just follow that. Like, what is the size they are going to get? Because they also need to provide a space.
Exact. Yes, they on the basis of the space they decide. So what is the format that you have to format? Yes, there's the instruction. There is the instruction for the poster that to provide.
Yes.
I have a small concern. Like I was wondering, the presentation was very detailed and all. I'm just sort of wondering, like, as I think Minakatan also pointed that out several times, since unlike let's say a PowerPoint presentation where the audience is more or less given you, so like they have come or they have attended and you are making a presentation. So once for all, you explain, you show whatever you want to discuss. But in a presentation, there will be a floating population. So I'm just wondering, like, whether it's also something which I wanted to discuss with Amarendra, like whether, like, okay, unless there is a minimum, whether there should be a kind of a time frame. Okay, within this 15 minutes or half an hour, this discussion will be there, or there is some limit to the number of people, like minimum 10 people होने से हम एक बार, otherwise what will happen, like every 5 minutes one person will be coming. I'm just sort of more of a practical point of view. So I'm wondering how, if any suggestions on how best that could be organized, because like the person who is having the like the author would have a tough time in explaining every second person who comes and joins. Sir, please tell me from the beginning. Then you explain halfway through, another person joins in. So is that a good idea, or we should have some kind of a like a time frame. It's like in many, like suppose you go to some of these public exhibition places where you have an audience of 20, then they'll show a little film. Okay, for these 20, so I'm sort of like more from a practical point, I'm wondering what may be a good idea.
Yeah,
Aman
no,
Rai.
usually, like say, if you are asking for our conference, then what we can do is we can keep say the afternoon session for maybe 2 hours. During that time, anyone can visit that poster presentation site, and all the poster presenters will be standing aside. So if anybody has any question, then they can ask. Usually that is what is done. And like in other countries, during lunch hour break, they will put those posters. So people will be having their bread, and they will be asking questions. Say, oh, so what are you doing? Like that. So we can, of course, in India, we can do it during lunch break, but we will keep the afternoon session. Because in first half, we will have the training program, and in the second half, maybe 1 hour or 2 hours, you can keep for the presentation.
Someone has written that this research methodology. I think many good books are available in this web portal. Remember one thing: if you have some basic, please don't refer this year Kothari. If you want, at least go for if you go for that is research methods by step by Ranjit Kumar. This is the basic book. If you many other books are there, but if for the graduation student level, I think this is very with step by step and also diagram. Many things are there. So I suggest that you can go for this, and you always encourage student to read at least these basic books. Beyond that, many books are available. So I have a soft copy of minimum 25 to 30 books on that, on the foreign author. And but most of the cases, because you see, if you read, yes, Kothari, some extent, generally most of the researcher throughout, if you go for, this is one of the best book that people think. But many, the concept, the clarity is there in case of, if you go for reading the scaling, that the measurement and scale. Okay, and also you totally be confused on that. And also if the data part, this if you read, so that is also confused on that. So my suggest is that at least some good books that at least you should refer on this. And the quantitative, one thing, my point is that someone is the quantitative data analysis. Yes, that is essential. But the thing is that at least you should know why I'm using t-test, why I'm using chi-square test, why I'm using ANOVA, why I'm using factor analysis. That clarity is not there, but everything is there. And immediately if you ask, my supervisor suggest किया है, नहीं करेंगे तो होगा नहीं, thesis accept नहीं होगा. So you please don't do that. So at least some clarity should be there, because the last time I remember, so exactly copy paste from this SPSS software. So minimum 100 pages of this analysis, nothing is there. Exactly copy paste from this and Word file copy paste. That's all. So you as a researcher, please, we teacher are responsible for that. We should avoid it. और कुछ क्वेश्चन नहीं है किसी का? यही तो सर, मतलब सब समझ में आ गया सबको.
So how many panels you are proposing, like in a like a single poster, like about 8 or something, or 12? I don't know. Like suppose if I see that each one as a slide, for instance, so how many, any rough idea? I mean, I understand, as Amarendra is saying, that the space will be decided at the place, but
No,
like
I
little,
get you, sir.
no, I'm saying, like suppose I have a poster,
Yes.
so it's a single entity, you see, but then it will have, let's say, I do not know, 8 or 12 boxes or those many slides I can accommodate? Is there some standard?
No, actually, how it is done is like, there are templates available online, and someone can also make that using the PPT. But then when you print it, you have to give it to some DTP person or press person. They only can do the final printing, because I think we cannot do it. The final setting thing, it's difficult for us to manage the thing. So, like, I had also made a poster presentation, I think couple of years ago in Delhi. So what I did is I used the PPT slide and I designed it. And so whatever like Minakatan Bhai was showing, that you can prepare using a single slide. So divide the slide into like all the spaces, and then put in all these boxes. Then finally give it to some press person, like who can do a pacemaker. They'll put it in a pacemaker and they will ask you like what is the size that you want, and then they'll print it on a flex. So size, and then coming to the space, we have to ask like how many poster stands they can arrange for our purpose, I'm telling, for our conference, and accordingly we will select the posters.
Someone has written to explain, I think, research gap. Good. Because you see, Maharana. Yeah. So if you go for research gap, remember one thing. This is very, very essential. Why I emphasize? I immediately, the first question I ask my students, tell me your research gap. Because remember one thing, if you do not know your research gap, you will not able to formulate your research question. You will not able to formulate your hypothesis. That you have to very clear from the first day itself. Because everything depends upon your research gap. Because you see, so most of the students, they do not know what is. If you ask, tell me what is your research gap in the 2-3 points, the answer is only most of the cases, yes, many people will explain on that basically, and you will find most of the cases they say that geographical factor. Oh, that is I have done in this case, but yes, I am just explaining the research gap. Suppose you see, I am giving one example. You just imagine. Suppose you just Amarendra has done a research work on the child labor. So, and the main findings that the existing literature in 2020 or 2000, he did a survey, and the main finding is that poverty is the cause of child labor. So one variable, that is the poverty, is the cause of child labor in 2000. Suppose you want to, who is asking this question? So you want to do the survey. Now, if you do this survey again, the same child labor. So if you suppose you find this conclusion on the child labor, poverty is the cause of child labor. Suppose you find, then what is your contribution? Your contribution is zero, because you have not gone to the literature. You have not identified your research gap. So maybe you find that, okay, poverty in 2000, Amarendra has done a survey, and poverty is the cause of child labor. Now from this, it is not your business. So what is the other factor that Amarendra has not discussed that things in his studies? Maybe, suppose only poverty is taken into account. Suppose other factor, maybe ghar mein unka parents' education. Suppose you take, maybe their parents' education is a factor. Because of that leads to child labor. Maybe another factor, ghar mein, if you go for sibling, because of the sibling, the responsibility he or she is taking, because of that he becomes child labor. Maybe third factor, third dimension, you just look at this distance from the school. This is the third factor. Maybe fourth factor, maybe teacher ne usko khub mara to isliye gaya nahi. Fourth factor. So you as a researcher, so it is your duty that what is I am going to do that other have not done. So what have done in literature, that is not your business. What is not taken into account in that his studies or her studies, it is your duty. So remember one thing. So if you understand on this research gap, that this is because this is the question why, then only you can formulate many things, and including your research gaps, objective, research question, hypothesis, everything. So this is the research gap. Yes, geographical factor is a research gap on the basis of this, but other dimension. So we did review of literature because it is our duty that what other has done, that is not our business. हम methodology क्या था, findings क्या था, conclusion क्या, that is not. Only thing is that you have to, if you go for what they have not taken into account, if you are taking into account, that is your contribution. That is, so you have to identify your variables, the additions, new things to this literature. So that is that we call as a research gap. That is very, very essential.
Okay, so any other discussion now? Okay, so I think thank you so much, Menakatan Bhai, for very detailed presentation on how to make a poster, and I again look forward to getting a lot of posters from our participants. So we can now start the open house discussion. If there are any other challenges that our teacher colleagues would like to share, we'll listen to them. And I don't know whether they're all tired full day from 10 a.m. to now 5 p.m. So let us see whether they have some energy to share anything with us. So will anybody like to say something?
Sir, namaskar. Sir, this is a personal question. I want to know. Hello.
Yeah, so what we'll do is, like maybe by
Sir,
tomorrow, I will be sharing with all of you a Google form, and you can share your research area of interest, and whether you would like to have another follow-up session where you can have one-to-one discussion like on a specific topic, how to find out the research problem or literature, data analysis, and all that you can discuss. Because this was a general training program for all, so that you know the template, like how to begin the research and then how to come up with the analysis. I think people are already leaving the meeting, so that means
Amarendra, Vijay is asking some questions. Amarendra?
who is asking?
yes, sir.
Vijay,
Sir,
Vijay.
namaskar.
Vijay. Vijay is
Sir,
asking something.
yes, sir. Sir, this year I have joined
Vijay.
through the SSB at Raulkela Neuroscience College, and
Who
I
is
have
no Vijay?
passed in. Sir, this is a personal
Okay,
question.
Vijay Kumar Das.
Hello, I am audible.
Are you asking something?
Hello.
Yes, yes, you are audible, Mr. Das. Please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, this year I have joined as a lectureship through SSB, and I have passed in 2020. Sir, the problem is I have felt from 2020 is that I have cleared the net, but I have cleared the written exam, HCU, CDS, JNU. But sir, the problem is when at the time of interview, I was
No,
not
nothing is
able.
audible.
Hello.
It is audible.
I think, Amarendra, there is some issue with your this thing. It is audible, actually.
Amarendra, it is you have problem, I think.
He is quite audible. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, Mr.
Vijay,
Das,
speak.
please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, I have net, but I was I have cleared the many universities written test. But sir, at the time of interview, I have faced many problems in the research proposal, and the panelists always asked me that what is the gap and what exactly what you are trying to do. I was unable to explain it due to my inefficiency, maybe. You know, it is more ସତ କହିବାକୁ ଗଲେ ଏଇ ମାନେ this problem I have felt, and I feel that in Odisha many people are facing this type of problem, and at PG level. So if anything can be done to actually the how they will write a good research proposal. And sir, I was eager to do PhD, but due to some family issues, I have joined as a lectureship, and this year I have also qualified as JRET, and I was very much eager to do PhD. But how can I go go for PhD after this lectureship? I have asked to many, those who have joined in 2016 and 2019, how they will, how study leave can be, taken, or whatever part-time job, how can we get? They don't have any answer. Sir, please, if you elaborate something on that, I will be ever grateful.
Yeah. So, yeah, Vijay,
Yes,
if
sir.
you go for, is it audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
If you go for most of the cases in the interview, remember one thing. So, like in JNU, if you want to do PhD, if you are qualified for JRF, so
Yes,
you
sir.
can call for directly. There is no need of written test. You can call directly for the PhD interview. And in the PhD interview, the first question generally we ask that on the topic that maybe suppose you say that okay, we are working on the child labor, we are working on this tribal, we are working on this any issue you are working. So you have to very clear from the first day that why you are interested on this topic. So if you are not clear on that, because many times I seen many in the last time in my center itself, we have from Odisha, we have minimum 16 students qualified the written test, 16 students, and they have called for interview. And if you go for in the interview, so this interview only in terms of this, they have not clarity on that. So at least you whenever any topic, so you have to very clear on that. ये टॉपिक में क्यों कर रहा हूँ काम, क्यों करना चाह रहा हूँ, क्या करना चाह रहा हूँ, और मेथोडोलॉजी क्या होगा. यही चीज if you are clear on this 3 point, I hope you will not faces any problem anywhere. This is the
Yes.
my understanding. Regarding this second point that you are asking, I have not that much technical knowledge, but in JNU from this year itself we have a provision that will provide part-time PhD, but there is some conditions in that at least you have 1 years at least the coursework, because there is a mandatory of the coursework that you have to finish this coursework. So during this coursework you have to take a leave if that is possible from the your this the college level. If that is possible, you explore. So you can apply not in JNU itself, everywhere in Hyderabad. I have understanding on that. So you can do this time. This is the first time this part-time concept is there, so you can explore on that. And if that is not possible, you can explore in the itself in the Odisha, Revensa and Utkal University, or in other plans.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I think Vijay Kumar Das, I think he was is a very. I think this specific event you actually sort of thought about also partly to address the question that you have asked. Like I think the exposure has been very limited, and it also depends on like how much the teachers themselves are reading. You see, so I think these are difficult sort of questions for those who have already in the job. But then they also have their genuine sort of reasons of like dividing time between, let's say, regular teaching and having time for research. And so I think unless that sort of basic standard improves, this question will remain, in fact. So I would sort of still imagine that, I mean, while we wait for the overall standard of the teacher as a researcher improves, we probably need to read more, like others' proposals, and maybe attend, like, so talk to other faculty who might be working in research institutes. So this is, and also as Minakatan was also mentioning that there has to be absolute clarity on why you have picked up a particular subject, and how clear you are in terms of methodology. And the research gap question always bothers all of us. In fact, why to only refer to you, I think is, we all face that question. What we describe as the point of departure, like why, so that is based on your extensive reading of the relevant literature. So I think it's a kind of a, there is no simple solution to this. I mean, you have to improve your readings. Maybe you should read more articles from EPW or sort of good journals. You have to interact with people. I think so that is a very important part. Like maybe you are saying that you are doing very well in written part, but then you are not very good in articulating. So that articulation comes only when you participate in events actually. And we are not a very assertive people. We are not articulating. So these issues are sort of seen very much in an interview board. So with that, I think I would
Let,
read
let
more
me,
so that
Amarendra,
Yes.
Amarendra, maybe so if possible, because now many places. Last time we did the same thing. Like you remember that you and myself we have conducted how to write a proposal and all these things in this Moga Sikha Parishad. So easy if you allow me also, I am ready to contribute on this how to write a research proposal for this young those who are interested in this near future. They are appearing for that.
In fact, we had done a program. We in OE also we had conducted 1 day program on how to write a research proposal.
Yeah.
And if somebody has not attended that, then the recording is available on the YouTube channel of Odisha Economic Association.
Yeah, this may be Vijay. You can do that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
You can just go through it.
Yes.
I think Dr. Jyoti Satpathy in the
Thank
morning
you, sir.
wanted 7 minutes.
Yes.
So, so maybe,
Yes, let us listen to and then after that we can, I think, close. Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Please unmute.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor Das, sir. I think you have got a very sharp memory and you could do my face reading. Anyway, that was on a lighter side. Sir, whatever the esteemed speakers have spoken since morning, starting from your session, everything is relevant. Every alphabet of your talk is relevant. Starting from Professor Kesav Das, sir, and finishing just now with Dr. Minaketan Behera. Dr. Minaketan, sir, you and I belong to the same class. I'm also an output of University of Hyderabad. 89-90 batch MPhil Economics. Acha ho. Now the thing has come to such a turn that with the new education policy, students after graduation BA, they will straight away go for PhD. I'm not contesting the wisdom of the policymakers, but I would like to create some sort of a small revolution in the mind of we supervisors, guides, and mentors, that how ready are we for that. Dr. Amarendra made a very, very pertinent phrase this morning, training the trainers. True. Now, when I look at the trainer fraternity of Bhubaneswar, I will not speak out Odisha, Bhubaneswar, because I'm based at Bhubaneswar. What I've observed since my teaching days, last 30 years, is that some of us, majority of us, are shy to step out of comfort zone. This shackle we have to break. I'm sure all of us are in agreement with this. Like whatever is the prescribed syllabus, we are only meandering inside that syllabus, whirlpooling in that. Baharku jivaku hele, we are either loaded with comments, expletives, or our legs are pulled. This is one of the primary reasons, Professor Das sir, Dr. Minaketan sir, and my good friend Amarendra, I left Odisha. Today, because of the influx of 4G, 5G, 6G, Bhanji, Naji, the reading habit has come to practically zero. There was a time during our PhD days in 1998-99, we used to sit in the library, carry those reference cards with holes in that, and do. Today, if you tell a smart Alex to do a review of literature, he comes the next morning within 24 hours with 100-page review of literature. See that download, there another, okay, the master, it is his bandobast. Absolute wrong. We have to develop the reading habit. This industry is not going to close. And what is that industry? The highlighter industry that we have. Nobody is highlighting. Nobody is making margin comments. Nobody is making an observation sheet. And they think that overnight they can produce a write-up, because there is a very subtle difference between a paper and article. There is a very subtle difference between a dissertation, thesis, and a disquisition. Now, this morning I was telling that we are generally allergic and averse to interdisciplinary. For example, if somebody is working in behavioral economics, or if somebody is working in neuroeconomics like me, I don't go for my primary data or secondary data to any of the economics or social sciences journals. I'm getting it from All India Institute of Medical Sciences. Why? Because human desires are unlimited. That is the basic thing we have been taught during our IA intermediate. Human desires are unlimited means it straight away hits to psychology, it straight away hits to something else. When it hits to psychology, it is brain, cognition, neuro, everything, how my neurons are behaving. If I am a spendthrift or if I am a miser, mujhe conjuice, mujhe spendthrift, that means my brain is controlling my tendency to become a miser or a spendthrift. So now, for example, how many economists know that all the theories and models, including Samuelson and including Adam Smith, there's an Adam Smith Center for Research in Japan, brain research at Tokyo. They're interpreting the theories of J.S. Mill and Adam Smith as on date. Professor Ayo Takahashi. We have to come out of our comfort zone. Now, today, if you go to a traditional supervisor, why I'm saying traditional, amanga monarote concept puri oh, Dr. Minoketan, JNU, he's a giant. Dr. Kesav Das, Gujarat Institute, he's a giant. A giant system, we are not going to youngsters like Dr. Amarendra Das, let's learn something from him or let me take him as a PhD supervisor. Now, the classical thought is that, thesis